And we were going around down the trail, and a whole bunch of these Italians wanted to go with us. I don't know where they got a reward or what, but there was like 10 of them, and the 2 B-25 guys, the Spitfire pilot and me, around this trail. All of a sudden, I looked across this field, and I see some American Jeeps. I know they're American Jeeps. I'm sure of it. I just get out of formation with those 14 guys and take off across that field. I'm halfway across before I hear them yelling, "Minefield, minefield!" But I didn't step on mine. I got back. You can see me here. I finally got to, I thought I would go to Florence and report to 12th Air Force headquarters because I'd seen some tripods on the roads where I was sure the Germans had mines and were going to pull the strings up, so they had them there so their vehicles wouldn't hit them or their troops. We're going to just pull them all off of there as they retreated so our guys would get it. And I had pretty well mapped that out in my mind, and I want to make sure the whatever division that was, that black division on the left coast, 92nd Division, I believe. I didn't want any of them getting killed. So when I reported in, here I was in this blue suit, pair of black shoes didn't fit. I don't remember what on my shirt. Smudged up face from all that black brown salve, and said, "I'm Lieutenant Barry from 64th Fighter Squadron." Well, they sent me right up to the generals. Like, I thought maybe they thought I was a spy or something. And general, there was 3 of them in there. I think all the generals in 12th Air Force here. "We don't have any Lieutenant Barry. Who are you trying to fool?" Then they smiled and said, "We have a Captain Barry." Well, Archie Knight had told me several months before, I said, "Hey, why are other flight commanders captains and I'm only first lieutenant?" He said, "You think I'm going to have any teenage flight commanders?" So as soon as I did make 20 flight, my promotion got through. Okay, I got back to the squadron. First thing I go notice Shelby, the owner of number 21, who made the promise. He walks up and said, "Here's your $20, Barry." I didn't think anybody had the guts to do it. I'll just finish this real quick. I tried to hide. You know, they wiped that salve off my face and put a couple bandages. It didn't look too bad. The flight surgeon didn't know I had those burns up and down my legs, so I kept my pants on. But I wanted to fly. But they said, "Hey, there's a rule. If you have been shot down and got back, you can't fly in this theater. You'll have to go over and fight the Japs." Why? Because you know too much about getting back. And that might be good intelligence material. But they said you can't slow time an airplane. Well, that's when they put a new engine in and they want to put 4 hours on it before you get out in combat. So they let me slow time number 34, I remember, had new engine. But I couldn't resist. I got up in the air and I knew that Po Valley where all the Germans were just like the back of my hand. I mean, I had more missions than anybody in the squadron. So I said, if they're slow timing that engine, got farther and farther into enemy territory, just looking around to see it for the last time. A nostalgic visit. I did have my guns in case I saw something. And I started hearing reports on the radio of a bogey up there north of Milan. And I looked around, I couldn't see it. Anyway, then I went off to closer to Turin. We called it Toronto. That bogey's over there now. All of a sudden, I knew who that bogey was. And I did a split ass and hit the deck and headed for the water. And I didn't find out Bill Barry was the bogey. We had one more move from Grosseto up to Verona, south of the Brenner Pass, where they took over a palace and some bunch of outbuildings. More of a regular field the Germans had used. And the first day in there, my buddy Larry Grace, who was flying L5s with the spotters that pull in targets to from the infantry. They're living with the infantry on the ground. They can spot these targets from the ground or in the air with their slow-moving L5, you know, like a Piper Cub. And he said, one of our guys had appendicitis. We got 3 airplanes to bring back. Would you come over and get one? Well, he landed in a cornfield in the back of this palace, maybe 5 acres, and it was awful small, in the stubble. And I said, yeah, I'll go back with you. So I'd never flown one, but I thought it'd be fun. So he got me in there with him, and when I'm looking, and it isn't over 150 feet to the end of that cornfield where it falls off the hill. All that stubble, he just swings around, blasts it off. We go along here bouncing, fall off the end in the air. He's been doing that for months, so that was, you know, been flying off of roads and wherever he could land. So we go to this other palace area. They're celebrating now. We got the Germans driven out of Italy. All the kids in town dancing. There's at least 100 kids there, and they all want a plane ride. All day long, the 3 of us, me and my first flight, get a kid in there, take off, turn around, come in and land. The kid's tickled to death, and the other one hops in. That was about the most fun thing in the whole war. So, meanwhile, I'm having that fun while the burns are getting infected in my legs. And I end up, they don't know this in the squadron. I get my orders to go home. By the time I get down to Naples, I'm about ready to pass out. I end up at the 300 General Hospital for 3 months while they're clearing up that infection. I get out, I stagger to the boat. I think that's all that's wrong with me, weeks from 3 months of hospitalization. I get on the boat and I can't use my arms and legs. And about 10 days later, when I land, they take me off in a stretcher. I end up in Galesburg, Illinois, at an Army hospital, Mayo General. And meanwhile, I'm so ashamed of myself for getting the paralysis. The Army would call it shell shock. We called it flak happy. Today it'd be PTSD. And I was embarrassed. Thank God they put a name to it. Guillain-Barré syndrome, a polyneuritis that you don't catch from being scared to death in combat. And I think I better knock it off there.